Good morning. Welcome into the PHLY Phillies podcast. Day 2, show 3, because Renee and I were in here last night late reacting live on the postgame show. And that's something that's going to be happening, once or twice a week come playoff time, probably every game. And last night, Renee, was a game. I'm still pretty angry about it. I'm trying to be calm because it is just a regular season game. But I noticed on the roads this morning, either people were driving more and more like incredibly stupid people, or I'm still angry at the Phillies game, and every little thing I saw on the road was triggering me. I haven't really figured out which one it is yet, but last night was an emotional roller coaster. There was some good, but it was ultimately ruined by some bad. A lot of stuff to talk about today. We're actually going to throw up our first poll in the YouTube chat. And the poll's a simple one, Renee. We put one out on the PHLY_Phillies Twitter account this morning, and it's the thing I told you I was going to wake up thinking about it. Should Rob Thompson have bunted JT Realmuto in the 9th inning there to get the double play out of the game? And I woke up, yeah, he should have. And I heard people last night on the radio. I saw people on social media saying, well, JT hasn't laid down a sacrifice bunt since 2015. You don't do that there. BS. If JT can't do it, Garrett Stubbs can. It's the right baseball play to make there. I fully believe in my heart and soul that the Phillies win that game last night if they played small ball and proper baseball. They didn't, and now today you're up against the ropes versus the Braves in a 4-game series.
Well, Jamie just jumped right in, and it's morning time here. I'm going to take a step back here, Jamie, for those that are tuning into PHLY Phillies podcast, and first say good morning. And I love the fact it's okay. You know what? Jamie's been on one this morning and has been ready to just fire away, but I'm going to bring us back a little bit and reset a little. And I know there are some people that have been waiting. They wanted us to start at 10 o'clock. I love the fact that people are holding us accountable too. We love accountability. It's not 10 o'clock when we started. We did start at 10:15, but we were also here up until midnight with the post-game show for those that had a chance to tune in live. If you missed it, check it on our podcast platforms. If you missed it also live and you wanted to be there live, don't worry. We've got more post-game shows coming your way. But look, it's Wednesday. It's midweek. It was a frustrating day yesterday. Jamie is a chef himself, so I know you just jumped right into the main course. We skipped the appetizer, but I am bringing us back to the appetizer and saying good morning from us here at PHLY Phillies podcast. But look, as you mentioned, some frustration, and the day did not start off as planned. Did you at least have the breakfast?
No, I didn't. I laid in bed kind of depressed.
Okay. No eggs and breakfast?
No, I did not make the eggs this morning for the girls. Paige was giving me a good cuddle, so I just kind of took that and laid in bed and was kind of lazy and woke up and just gave him some cereal. Skylar, my oldest, is a Phillies nut. She can name the whole roster. It's really cute and adorable. And sometimes she does take away that sharp edge I have when you watch the game through kids' eyes again. And I usually tell her in the morning, oh, Phillies won, Phillies lost. And this morning I was like, Skylar, the Phillies lost in the most frustrating fashion in the world because the offense came through late. And to just see, you had all the momentum. It should have ended there in the 9th. Nick Castellanos, he's got to move out of the 4-hole. He just does. That's a situation last night. You got to see a pitch. The book is out on you. You're an aggressive hitter. Most of the time, I love that. Jimmy Rollins made a career, a damn near Hall of Fame career. I think he should get in, of being aggressive and going after that first pitch. Jimmy's a better hitter than Nick Castellanos. Sometimes, situationally in baseball, it calls for a couple pitches to be seen. If guys know you're going after that first pitch, they're going to junk you up and throw you something with movement on it and hope you top it and ground into a double play. And that's exactly what Nick did last night. You let Iglesias and the Braves off the hook there. We'll get into all the stats about how clutch the Phillies are late and also at the same time how much they can kind of blow it late, because I can't really put last night on Craig Kimbrell. The real pitching story last night was Zack Wheeler gave you his first stinker in about 5 or 6 starts. I can't get too angry at that. I can't get too angry at Kimbrell. To me, last night, it was all on the offensive decision of the head coach and the manager. You know, we put a Twitter poll out, and we're going to put one up on YouTube, to bunt or not to bunt last night. And
that is the question.
Yeah. And it's something about baseball that drives me nuts. And kind of new in all sports in a way, because a lot of these new trends in sports, I'm sure you see it in soccer when you're talking about the union. You know, football, it's, the tush push last year became like a new trend. There's always these new trends that take off. In South Korea basketball, they're attempting the bank shot free throws now. All these new trends kind of take off. And it's like, people forget that the game existed before that, and all of a sudden the old way is bad and the new hot trend is good, and analytics and blah, blah, blah. To me, situational baseball is never going to die.
Yeah.
And last night was a situational small ball game. You know, JT, he hasn't sacrificed bunt since 2015. I understand that. He probably doesn't practice bunting that much.
But there is someone who can bunt.
But Garrett Stubbs is on the bench, and I heard Rob Thompson this morning talking about it, and he was asked directly, do the guys on the team practice bunting? And he said, 2 to 3 times a week we get out there. He said, usually it's the guys at the bottom of the order, Garrett Stubbs, that they get out there and practice bunt for singles and sacrifice bunts. So if you feel like JT can't do it, then make the substitution, get Garrett Stubbs in there, have him drag one down the first base line. You eliminate the double play, then you still have 2 outs, and all you need is a fly ball to win the game. I don't see the other side of it.
Yeah.
And it's this new era of baseball, and it frustrates me. Now, I might be an old man yelling at clouds here, and, this might be like my Schwarber stance, and maybe a year from now I put on the cone of shame and admit I was wrong, but I don't think I'm going to be wrong. I think that type of baseball is always there.
Well, there's a lot to unpack there, Jamie. And the first thing you're talking about is just the fundamentals of the game. And I know that's something that when you look at a team like the Braves and what separates them, obviously offensively, they've been phenomenal all season. But what separates them from a team maybe like the Phillies right now is just to be able to have the little details. And at this stretch of the season, when you're talking about the fundamentals of making the right call to bunt or not to bunt, maybe bringing in Stubbs and making that decision late in the game that will help win that game. That's the difference between being top of the standings and being in competition for that top wild card spot. And that's a separation that we've seen all season, honestly, for the Phillies specifically. Quick shout out to Garrett Stubbs, who did win was announced he was the team winner of the 18th Annual Heart and Hustle Award. The MLBPAA announced that. So we'll find out officially if he's the overall winner in mid-November. But either way, Garrett Stubbs not only got the award, but should have got the call up to maybe come in and be the one that bunted in that situation. But as you're also mentioning, the accountability piece, I know you guys even held us accountable for. We didn't start at 10 o'clock. You held us accountable. But it's time that the Phillies hold themselves accountable as well. Zack Wheeler did come out post-game, putting the loss on his shoulders. Absolutely. You look at the way that he started and dug the Phillies in a hole. They're down 6-1. After being up a run, Zack Wheeler took full accountability, just admitting and saying that, he's got to be better. And I agree with him. He said, this one's on me. I put us behind the 8 ball a little bit. We had to fight back. I've got to do better. They fouled a lot of balls off. I didn't have my great stuff. He just was kind of grinding through it. And yes, I'm glad he took that accountability. But as Bryce Harper was saying, at this point in the season, these are games that you have to win. These are meaningful games. These are playoff teams that you're facing. And you want to make sure this late in the season that as you get down the stretch, you're able to close out not only the win, but the series the way that you're supposed to.
Yeah, Zack Wheeler, he's right. And I always appreciate honesty from athletes and taking the blame and accountability. You could tell through 2 innings last night. I think he had 43 pitches through 2 innings. They said, Tom McCarthy during the game last night, that I think 11 of the 25 batters were starting out with a 1-0 hitters count versus him. And that's just one of those times. There's not much you can do because the bullpen's getting worked. You know, he's your ace. You want to ride him out and see if he can right the ship. Unfortunately, he wasn't really able to last night. And Marcelo Zuna and the stupid arm flapping, which, by the way, if I see it again today, I want a playoff brawl. I'm getting real. I went off on my Braves hate last night. The stupid arms in the air. Somebody needs to catch one in the ribs. I feel like a caveman the way I'm talking. Hit him in the ribs and bunt the ball. Like, just because it's the new trend in baseball doesn't mean you can't revert back to classic baseball.
Yeah.
And that's the thing I woke up still angry about this morning. If Bryce Harper can lay down a bunt, then JT Realmuto can lay down a bunt.
Yeah.
If you're a 2 through 5 hitter, I don't care. You're not above playing small ball if it's the right time and situation for it. But Zack Wheeler, I'm not worried about him. He kind of gets a pass last night. The other question is going to be, how does Aaron Nola, Ranger Suarez, and Taijuan Walker look down the stretch? Because I was listening to Rob Thompson, and he basically said his playoff rotation is more or less set unless, health gets in the way.
Yeah.
And it's going to be those 4 guys. And I think he's right on that. It's kind of just the simplest answer. Sanchez and Lorenzen both have bullpen experience.
Yep.
So it's going to be on these 4 guys. And Taijuan Walker's struggling. Christopher Sanchez has been great lately. He's got a big opportunity today versus Spencer Strider, which we'll get into a little bit later in the show. But it looks like those 4 guys are going to be it for the playoffs.
Yeah.
And we'll get an Aaron Nola start tomorrow versus a poor Cardinals team. And you just got to, hope these guys right the ship, because without them, I don't think we're playing into November.
Yeah, we wondered as the 6-man rotation had been playing out when the announcement came forward what the bullpen was going to look like. And as of now, as you mentioned, Michael Lorenzen, Sanchez looking like most likely to be impacted, and players that, might be on the outside looking in. But we'll see for sure how the bullpen continues to shake out. I know in the comments you guys are continuing to ask about and make your comments about the bunting. Do we have the poll up, Coach? Are we rolling with the poll in the YouTube chat?
Come on, Coach. Snap into gear.
Put the poll in, Coach. Put us in.
I'm going to come over there and poll you.
So we have a poll for anybody that hasn't had a chance. Check out our poll on Twitter as well, on PHLY_Phillies. We do have a Twitter poll going, but we do also have a poll that we're dropping in on YouTube. We want to see if are we crazy or is it that we're correct? Because sometimes there's a fine line, and I think we're on the correct side here of to bunt or not to bunt. So
I don't see the other side,
comments
frankly.
Are flaming with bunt, bunt, bunt. But also I do see Dan Bergvall, I'm so sorry if I said your name incorrectly.
What do you say, Dan?
Said that JT hasn't laid down a successful bunt since 2015.
That's correct.
Swing away or pinch hit with Stubbs. I mean, it's KYP in sports. We always talk about know your personnel, and Rob Thompson down the stretch in clutch moments has continuously dropped the ball. And when you look at the stats, the Phillies have had a game-tying or go-ahead home run in the 8th or 9th inning 5 times in the last 3 weeks. And in those 5 games, how many have they won? 0. Big old goose egg. 0-5 in games where down the stretch, you are actually getting hits. We've talked about getting hits when you have runners in scoring position. Home runs have been, honestly, the backbone of this team. And down the stretch, the Phillies have had that. They've had game tying or go-ahead run homers. But then on the other side, you're not coming out with that win. So what does that say about the identity of this team? Yes, they can claw back. Yes, they're resilient. But 0-5 in games, when you look across the last 3 weeks, that you had a chance to, you had the momentum, it's a winnable game, and you dropped the ball, sometimes quite literally, and lose the game.
Yeah, it's quite frustrating. And our own Charlie O'Connor has a piece up on allphly.com today that basically says something along those same lines, that this team's built for the playoffs. And as frustrating as last night is, there's a lot of positive to take out of it. And that positive is what you just brought up. Obviously, you don't want to go 0 for 5 in those situations. But the fact of the matter is, in the 6th inning or later, the Phillies have 116 runs to their opponent's 76 runs. So late, they're clutch. And you saw it from Trey Turner last night, which, the first 3.5, 4 months of the season, I just said, if Trey Turner can come around, this team is going to make a run. Yeah. He's come around, and now other things are going wrong. Mm-hmm. So it's pretty frustrating there. But check out Charlie's piece. It's up on the website. We'll tweet it out. And I'll implore everyone to follow at PHLY_Phillies. That's going to be kind of your alert notice when we're going live on air. Yeah. We'll share the stories from our beat guys. on that channel, as well as watch the game along with you live on social media. To address real quick 2 of the comments, Barbara, yes, the flip-flops are on today, and Rev Your Dad, yes, I know the Phillies are off on Thursday. I misspoke. Cardinal series starts Friday. The Phillies said, yeah, the Eagles are playing Thursday night. We'll let you guys have that day. We'll resume on Friday. So, yes, Nola is on the mound Friday for a big one there. But, yeah, it's and hypothetical, man, Turner may put out a 30-30 season.
Absolutely.
Which is incredible considering where he was the first 3 months of the season.
Honestly, not only is Trey Turner in the path of having a 30-30 season, but honestly setting us up for a 30-for-30 type of a documentary story of what this season has been. You look at Trey Turner from the standing ovation early August, even having little Tatum, and now being able to have this phenomenal season that could be a 30-30 season, and just we didn't expect to be here with Trey Turner. But I love the fact, exactly as you talked about, we challenged Trey Turner to step up, and Trey Turner has done that. And now it's a matter of, can we get the Phillies on the right track? Can we right the ship? Can we also turn that corner? Also in the chat, you guys pay attention. Let's just point that out. You calling out Jamie with the flip-flops. You're calling out Coach, letting Coach know, put the hot dog down and give us the poll. The people want the poll. The people have spoken. Coach, drop the poll.
Well, the early results on the Twitter account was nearly... I think
There's
it was
the poll.
Nearly 91% of the people we put out on the PHLY_Phillies account agreed. You got to get a bunt down in that situation. I frankly just don't see the other side. I heard somebody I know last night in respect say it's just not going to happen. 29 other managers, 30 other managers in baseball aren't going to lay down a bunt there. And that's that new school, old school divide. And baseball kind of lends to it more than a lot of the other sports. I frankly just don't see the other side.
Yeah.
I understand, especially when you see JT leave the box and say, I can't hit the ball.
Yeah. Yeah.
The hardest part about being a baseball manager is pushing the right buttons in the bullpen and knowing your guy's psyche and mentality. Because the real job of the manager is kind of being that clubhouse father, making sure everybody's kind of staying. It's a grind, man. The season is long. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of their job. And if Rob Thompson knows JT's struggling at the box, which he kind of has been all year, this is a really down year for JT, that's even more so a reason to bring in Garrett Stubbs to lay down that bunt. Yep. So it's an old school, new school divide thing. But at the same time, I just don't see the new school thought there, frankly, at all.
And that's where, as you mentioned, for a manager, it's their role to manage these players, manage the rotations. I mean, it's always a weird dichotomy, I feel like, in professional sports, because everybody says these are adults, these are the best of the best, they can coach themselves. And no, you have managers there that, especially down the stretch, can make those decisions and say, you know what, I'm going to hold you accountable, JT. You're not the one that we want to step up. If you maybe can't come and deliver on the bunt, let's bring in Stubbs and let's make sure we can make that happen. But it's up to the managers to make those tough decisions sometimes. And Rob Thompson right now, we've seen not always be able to come through. Last season, I know we talked about this, somebody mentioned this yesterday in our post-game show. Last season, Rob Thompson was clutch in some moments down the stretch. This season, it's been kind of hit or miss. So we do want to get into righting the ship, but I know we also mentioned the fact that Thursday is the Vikings-Eagles game. Obviously, then Phillies resume on Friday. So for anybody that's looking to buy tickets, whether it's Thursday, Friday, any other day, to a game, to a concert, you can absolutely check out and get those tickets for a nice, easy process working through the Game Time app. Now, the Game Time app, phenomenal job of just giving you the best prices, the best opportunities to buy those tickets. So you have the great seats, you get access to the hot dogs and whatever else. And now you and your buddies can sit and enjoy the game or the concert. And you can use the code PHLY for $20 off your first purchase. So PHLY is the code on Game Time app so that you can experience all the fun at whatever venue, entertainment, concert, game that you want to go to, because Game Time app has our back here in Philly and has your back as well. Well, let's talk about who's got our backs with the Phillies. There needs to be some changes that have happened. As we've been talking about, the bunt gate, I'm going to call it, to bunt or not to bunt.
Well, Jason Coletti, real quick in the chat, he says, Jamie, JT can't bunt. He's never done it. Then you walk Casty. Yeah, this is why baseball's great, because everything, okay, I'll take the bases loaded there. Yeah. Let's see how the pitcher, let's see how tight his sphincter gets with the bases loaded and the game on the line. That's a situation I want. Okay, fine, walk Castellanos. then if I'm not mistaken, it's Bohm coming up next. So yeah, give me a tight sphincter pitcher on the mound with the bases loaded in an opponent's ballpark and one of your best batter with runners in scoring position at the plate. So Jason, I agree with you. JT can't bunt. You either bring in Stubbs, lay down the bunt, play situational baseball, or let JT swing, which he did. He strikes out, and then it's a double play, and all of a sudden, the inning's over in the blink of an eye. Part of it is just keeping that threat alive, and a double play is an absolute backbreaker in that situation. As soon as that happened, I went game's over. Yeah. And we're going to get into the extra innings nonsense of a guy on second. But I agree with you, Jason. But give me that situation. Give me a bases loaded pitcher on the mound, starting to sweat bullets with the Philadelphia crowd going nuts.
And that's where you need to make the simple play just to keep the inning alive, just to keep the game alive in this situation. And honestly, as we talk about, it's KYP, it's making the adjustments, it's making the simple decision, and you don't need to win the game in just that one play. We just need to keep it going. And if bases are loaded, I like our chances there. I do also like the point about there is always a positive spin. It's Rudavad is how I believe you say your name on YouTube. And the other positive spin, if we can pull off the split today, it took, the Phillies took the best team in the NL, 2 extra innings, games where they were down, able to come back. This is a positive spin for sure, but right now it just hurts a little bit because it's also a game that could have and should have been won. But after dropping the Miami series, here we are again. The Phillies on the brink of dropping another series that's winnable, another series where they had comebacks and leads that fell short. And now it's a question of what are those next steps? How do you right the ship? We've got World Series expectations. Is it a change? Is it just tightening things up? Is it Rob Thompson being better with management and just managing the game overall? Is it all of the above? There's
not really a whole lot you can do. You just have to kind of hope your guys, play up to their expectation. The hardest job Rob Thompson has is, look, I'd move Castellanos out of the 4-hole without a doubt. I'm open to suggestions who you put in there. Maybe you just simply, I know Bohm doesn't have the power, some of the other guys do, but he's your most clutch hitter with runners in scoring position. Maybe you give him in the 4-hole and a non-traditional look at that. Something with Castellanos has to happen. He's got to be out of that 4-hole. But the real thing is, how's he going to manage the bullpen? Does he realize Sir Anthony is kind of cooked in high leverage situations right now? I don't think his teammates have confidence in him. Jose Alvarado can give him all the friendship necklaces he wants, but I just don't think Sir Anthony's your guy in a tight spot late. I'd rather go with a Hoffman right now. I'd rather go with a Strahm right now. Even Alvarado looked really good last night. The heart of the Braves order came up there in the 9th, and Alvarado came through for you. So to me, the toughest job Rob Thompson has is managing this bullpen correctly. Yeah. It's the hardest job any manager has in baseball. But right now, Sir Anthony, to me, is kind of the key to all of this because he's just not good enough. And I'm going to chalk it up, and I'm going to think positive about the future. This is all since his return from the IL. His strikeout rate has dropped 20% since he returned from the IL. I just don't think it's going to happen right now. Once you get into the playoffs, you get a couple days rest in between games and series and all that, so you can kind of manage it a little bit easier. But right now, with starters not going late, Rob Thompson's kind of his ass is on the griddle here with how he manages his bullpen. And with Red October and baseball being back, guess what? We're going to hyperanalyze everything because that's what we do. Yeah. And that's the fun of baseball. It's a torment, but it's also fun because there's so many different situations and thoughts. And, people in the chat are probably going to say things that, I agree with and maybe I didn't think of. And that's the beauty of a great sports city and a community like we have here growing at ALLCITY and PHLY, that we get to talk about this and talk it out. And we're not going to break stuff and give you hot takes. And we're just going to talk through it and hopefully have more fun than we don't. But I think Rob's got his hands full with managing this bullpen.
Yeah, and the chat is just pouring in with thoughts of whether it's Nick Castellanos, Sir Anthony, Strom, Schwarber, just some different thoughts across the board. But I know we're talking a lot about the Phillies specifically, what they can control, because that's what we focus on, controlling the controllables. But also there's been some heat for some accountability for some other people on the diamond as well, the umpires. And I know looking at that game yesterday, we saw Wheeler threw 3 consecutive strikes to Austin Riley during the first inning. Home plate umpire Edwin Moscaso called each of them a ball.
Come on, Edwin.
And we saw throughout the course of the game that there were some pitches that, honestly, whether it was Philly, whoever was pitching, you kind of scratched your head at. And on Twitter specifically, I know there were some people questioning just some of these calls and calling for umpires to be held accountable. I don't like to weigh in on officiating in general unless I'm playing personally, because I just never agree with the call. But I don't know. Do you feel like that's something that really has been a huge game changer when you talk about a ball versus a strike?
Yes.
It's this late in the season, we're seeing it a lot. And how are we we're talking about it. What is going to be done to help hold umps accountable and make sure they're making the right call?
They get their grades after the game, but like, is your average baseball fan going and looking at umpire grades? No, because that's like the biggest nerd shit I've ever seen in my life. Not saying I don't do it, because I do follow MLB umpire grades on Twitter.
Okay, that's why you're speaking from experience.
Yeah, ever since they put the
it.
strike zone box up there, it's really kind of like Kimbrel threw one last night, high inside on the black, 97 miles an hour, a perfect pitch. The batter laid off of it. It's called a ball. And that right there, I can't wait for robo umps. Ever since that strike zone got put on TV, people notice it more and more, and they talk about it more and more. I can't personally wait for robo umps. I don't think it's going to happen next year. I think maybe the year after that it's going to happen. You'll still have these toads sitting behind the plate for the human element. So it's not like they're going to lose jobs or anything like that. But I personally eliminate the error. I don't like you have the technology and the ability to make the calls perfect.
Yeah.
It's 2023. Let's stop acting like this is 1893 Major League Baseball. Just go with robo umps, and you have the real human there for the plays at the plate, for all the calls that are going to be necessary. So I, for one, can't wait for robo umps. I don't know how you feel about it, but take the human error out of it. And consistency. It's just going to give you consistency. Whether the Braves are getting calls, the Phillies are getting calls, whoever. Like, I'll admit when the Phillies get lucky. It happens. It usually cancels each other out, kind of. But I just want that consistency, because ump to ump, you get different strike zones on different players, and it's just a frustrating. It's not a reason they lost last night. It's just I can't wait for robo umps.
Yeah, and I agree with your point, Neil Deaver, that you're saying of just allow one quick challenge per batter. There's technology that different sports have. I know we've seen everything from VAR and challenges and just finding ways to...
VAR sucks.
I know, and I see it all the time, especially in soccer. You see it all the time. It's like, and you're like, oh, no, here we go again.
It's like
over
hair
the monitor.
Over the line.
But you know what? Umps, officials, referees, they're human too. And the consistency, as you talk about, yes, you do all the training, but it's all perception. And we get the chance of seeing all the replays. We see the strike zone. We can argue about it. They're calling it in real time, which obviously is totally different. I can give them that, but this is what your job is. And I always struggle with us making excuses for people not doing their job. This is what you're trained to do. This is what you spend years and years doing. And when you're not able to perform and you're now making calls that are drastically changing the game, no, I'm not going to fully blame them, because Phillies, you got to take care of business. It starts with you, Zack Wheeler. But it wouldn't hurt if maybe some of these calls were correct and you're not like, what is happening here? And it's a whole game-changing play that just continues to grow.
Super dude in the chat says, I want a robo bullpen. Yeah, I want a bunch of Henry Rowan Gardners in the bullpen out there just throwing gas.
It is football in other countries. It is soccer here.
Over
Sam
here
from
it's
England.
soccer.
I know. Yeah, football, soccer, it's here. But
the tennis technology is awesome.
The tennis technology is awesome.
That is pristine.
Cricket and rugby has it down too.
I've been to cricket matches over in Australia. I'm a bit of a cricket. Well, I don't follow it now, but when I was over there, I drank the Kool-Aid. I got into it.
I'm no cricket expert, to be honest, but I like that Sam from England, first of all, is joining us from England, but also I'm assuming you're still in England. I don't know if you're...
Yes, he is.
But I'm going to assume you're still in
England. He comes over at least once a year to go to games and stuff.
Yeah, there you
I've
go.
met Sam before. He's a great dude. But yeah, it's like baseball is the only sport that hasn't really implemented that technology to make the game better.
Is baseball behind in that sense?
Kinda.
I mean, like it feels like so many sports.
It's America's game. They love the nostalgic history crap about it, and baseball's great. But you have the technology to eliminate a human error and make it kind of perfect and consistent. And I can't wait for robo umps. Really looking forward to it. Get the Angel Hernandezes of the world off my TV. These guys, some of these guys think they're the stars of the game, and it's really frustrating. That is my problem,
actually. I feel like you should not have a game where you recognize the umps or the officials. If you are calling them out by name, if you're talking about them at all, that means they're not doing their job. The game should be left up to the players and the coaches, and we shouldn't even have to worry about what call we did or didn't like. So when it gets to a point where you're constantly talking about umps in this case, that's an issue. That means something's wrong and needs to be changed. I love the fact that we're seeing some familiar names and faces in the chat. Justin, welcome back. Sam, who we talked about, welcome back. But I agree. It's time for baseball, Major League Baseball specifically, because we're seeing it in minor league baseball, to catch up, to get more advanced, and to make sure that you're doing the players a service and making the right call. At least let's get like 95%.
Yeah.
We don't have to be perfect, but let's get a little closer.
And look, the reviews from minor league players that have been playing with it are all positive. Pitchers like it. It's a good thing. I saw somebody in there say the umpire union's too strong. They're never going to allow it. Yeah. No, they're not going to lose any jobs from it. Their job's actually going to get easier because they're going to be let off the hook of hoagie mouth Philadelphians cursing out their families because it's all going to go to the machine. So there's still going to be, your infield umps, your foul line umps, your home plate ump. They're all going to be there. They're not going to lose jobs. So the union really has no issue in it other than wanting to flex and wanting them to be there. So to me, I don't think it's going to be an issue.
And the other thing is, my last point, hopefully my last point on this is, I'll use VAR for example. And I know anybody that's seen VAR in soccer and football, it's frustrating when you see the officials do the motion and you're like, oh great, the game's gonna stop. We're gonna go look at this call again. But there's something reassuring when they've taken an extra look. They've seen it from different angles too. I've been involved in those VAR, in those reviews. Well, not as an official, but I've been up close as they're reviewing it, and they get to see it from different angles. They can slow it down, they can rewind it. So it just allows them to really have a chance to take a step back and look at it again, which reassures you that whatever call they do make, you still may not like, but you at least feel more comfortable with, knowing that, okay, they had a chance to take a look at it. So same thing with challenges. If, all right, you're taking the moment to challenge it, you're looking at it again. So now you do have the rowdy fans, the players, we're not attacking you as much because we know you've at least done your due diligence to try to make the right call.
Yeah, and what's always the right call? Using DraftKings Sportsbook. Football's back in full swing, and our Birds are in action tomorrow night in an epic game. And you know who's got you covered on the action for every single one of them? Well, that's DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. New customers bet $5 on football and get $200 instantly in bonus bets. Nobody's missing out on the action this season. DraftKings customers, all DraftKings customers, not even the new ones, can take advantage of the 2 new offers every game day this September. Get in on the NFL action week 2 with the DraftKings Sportsbook. Download the app now and use code PHLY. PHLY. It's everywhere on social media these days, so it should be fresh in your mind and on the tip of your tongues. New customers bet $5 and take home $200 instantly in bonus bets. Only at DraftKings Sportsbook with code PHLY. The crown is yours. If it's anything like last year's Vikings game, you might want to look at a Justin Jefferson under tomorrow night because Slay put his ass in prison last year. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.sot1800gambler.net. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777. Visit ccp.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort, 21 plus age varieties by jurisdiction, void in Ontario. See sportsbook.com, DraftKings.com/football terms for eligibility, terms and responsible gaming resources. Bonus bets expire 7 days after issuance. Eligibility and deposit restrictions apply.
Well,
excuse me.
Yeah. catch your breath after that one. As we are talking through here on PHLY Phillies podcast, it's always great to take a step back and analyze everything. We've talked about the bullpen. We've recapped last night's game 3. We've recapped the series as a whole. We've talked about the umps and just our thoughts on how that can be changed, adding maybe a little bit extra time to review calls. But also, let's look ahead. Game 4. The
Phillies, is a big one.
Honestly, as we talked about, and I know it was mentioned in the chat, yes, we're frustrated, but there's still opportunity to split the series. You can still tie this up, and also just having those losses as close as they were, seeing the way that the Phillies battled, came back, a lot of encouraging takeaways and positive spins we can make, but also still opportunity. So looking at Christopher Sanchez versus Spencer Strider, this Game 4 matchup, the lineups as a whole, Jamie, I'll turn it to you. What are you looking forward to Game 4, and what are your thoughts leading into it?
Well, Christopher Sanchez has been really good lately, but Spencer Strider's had the Phillies number a little bit this year. I have his splits here versus the Phillies. If I can just find them, here they are. He's 2-0 with a 2.25 ERA versus the Phils this year, 18 Ks in 12 innings. So he's been pretty good against the Phillies. I know they got to him last year in the playoffs. That might have been a case of a young buck getting his call up on the big stage and having some nerves. Maybe he's, moved past that a little bit. I don't think he's intimidated by the Phils at all. If I had to place a wager today, I would unfortunately take the Braves. So if you're smart, you'll fade me, take the Phillies, you'll cash in. But maybe it's the pessimism from last night, but I kind of feel like the Braves are going to take this one today.
Oh, Jamie woke up choosing pessimism today
sorry.
And violence. I don't know. I feel like the hard part with the Phillies is all season we've been pretty back and forth. The moment you kind of get your hopes up, they get just shot down. So I could see this game going either way. I'm just interested to see how the Phillies respond. Yesterday, again, they talked about it, and even Bryce was mentioning how they're not overly worried and they're not letting these losses weigh on them, so to speak. It's weighing on us, though, and it's time to make sure you're closing out these games, especially when you come back, especially when you have a lead, to make sure you can close out, get the win at this point in the season. So I just want to see how the Phillies respond. Are you going to come back, show that same resilience we saw in Game 2 and that we've seen all season? Or are you going to come back and have these are small errors where it's like, if only Zack Wheeler had pitched better, or Nick Castellanos just hits better, or JT Bunts. There's these small things along the game that add up, and any one of those done differently, this is a victory we're talking about. So I'm hoping that at this point, it's time to have, exactly as I mentioned earlier, have the ability to pay attention in little details, to have that separation, be a top team. That's what the Braves have been doing, unfortunately, consistently, that we don't like, but we've been seeing them do. The offensive hitting's fantastic, but they're also taking care of the little details. The Phillies need to do the same. Yeah,
if you want to put the positive spin on it, the resiliency that the Phillies show you, and Charlie wrote about it this morning on the website, is an extreme positive. So
right.
I don't think they're going to be down on themselves about last night. I don't think they're going to be sourpusses today out there on the field and take it with them. If anybody's suited to go out there and go toe-to-toe with the Braves today, it's this Phillies clubhouse. They understand. It's just frustrating because of they're showing you the comeback potential
right.
and then squandering it. Like Bryson Stott coming in cold last night, he gets the night off and he comes in and does what he does. Him and Bryce go yard there, and the Vegas boys come up huge for you, and then Trey Turner in the 9th. It's pretty unbelievable, the resiliency this team shows you. So from that standpoint, they're as a live dog as ever today. So that's a great thing to talk about. You know what's not a great thing, Renee? And I want to bitch and moan more about the rules of baseball here. I couldn't be more over the automatic runner on second in extra innings. Now, when it first came out, I went, all right, I'll give it a shot, because I was very anti 4.5 hour baseball games. Look, I know a lot of people out there, are the midnight warriors. Well, I'm washed. By 10:30, I'm shot. So I was getting real sick of fighting to stay awake to watch the end of games. So anything to speed up the game, I was all for. Now that the pitch clock is implemented, do away with the runner on second. it really feels unbaseball like. And I'm not only saying that because the Phillies are losing these games, as we talked about earlier, 0-5 in their last 5 extra inning games. It's just, it feels unnatural. It feels cheap. I don't like it. Even if the Phillies were 5-0 in those 5 games, I still wouldn't like it. It just feels like too fundamental of a rule change to the game. Like the pitch clock to me, that makes a ton of sense. That's sped up the game. I love that. Now that that's there, ditch the player on second. It's not baseball. Like one single and you get a run. It's cheap. It just doesn't feel right. It doesn't sit well with me. So I really hope that's something they consider changing again, because they probably won't, because it would mean admitting a mistake.
That's true.
But I hate it. I don't know what your thoughts are on it. I hate it.
It feels redundant. It feels unnecessary. I agree. I think there's no reason for it. I know you're saying it. Justin's saying it.
Justin's a smart man.
Justin and Alex are saying it. It just feels like there's no need. The pitch clock, I thought, was the main rule change that just I agree with.
It's
speeds
great.
the game up.
Yeah.
It allows games to be a little bit shorter or a lot shorter and just more predictable. I hated the fact you go to the ballpark, you might be there for 2 hours, you might be there for 6 hours, you have no idea. But now we know, okay, the game's gonna move along, and unless there's extra innings, we're extending the game. But I do think there's ways. Oh, that's a good suggestion, Neil. Maybe start the runner on second in the 12th inning. Like
I don't mind that.
There's always rules. Yeah, I agree. Neil's got some good ideas, and you've had some great comments.
We have smart fans here at ALLCITY.
Such smart fans. We're intelligent here. Very, very intelligent and educated fans.
Yeah.
But I do think there's ways to tweak it, and I would imagine and hope that they're having these same conversations. We can't be the only ones here in Philly that are looking at it saying, you tried, but this isn't exactly what you thought it was going to be.
I would have to imagine that most baseball fans don't like it.
Yeah.
I haven't seen one person in the chat say, no, I really like the zombie runner. No, it's stupid. It's cheap. I understand speeding up the game. I'm all for that, but this is not it. So hopefully, like you said, hopefully it's something they talk about, because I don't want to have to tweet about it all the time. People.
Jamie loathes it. It's loathes it. It like completely hates it. But it is all, as you're saying, Dom Lewis. It's all to make the game quicker. We get that. It definitely has taken its toll, and with all these changes, look, I'm all for throwing things out there and seeing what sticks and seeing what you can roll with, but I think this one needs to be adjusted and maybe just tweaked to being after the 11th. I agree.
Chris Miller says after the 11th, 12th, whatever.
Let's vote for that. Where do we submit? Can we write an angry letter? Where do we submit?
Well, Rob Manfred's a big listener of the show, so Rob, come on, let's put this one before the rules committee and do away with it. It just doesn't make sense.
Go protest. What do we have to do? Let's make this change happen.
Because in the old days, look, when you had games that went to the 17th inning and 18 innings, that's absurd, because these players have a long ass season as it is. Oof. To play 2 games, the equivalent of 2 games in one night, is ridiculous. So yeah, I'm all for it. 11th, 12th inning. Give me at least 2 or 3 innings of actual baseball before you trot out this nonsense. Real quick on the game line tonight, the Braves are a minus 166 favorite on DraftKings right now, meaning you got to risk $166 to win $100. That is a pretty substantial favorite there over Christopher Sanchez, who comes in at plus 140. I mean, me personally, baseball is my least favorite sport to bet, just because the run lines have so many factors and variables that can affect it and change all the time. Like last night, if you had the Braves run line, you're sitting pretty, and then all of a sudden in the 8th inning, you're going, crap. And then the money lines are too expensive. 166 is pretty expensive if you were going to bet the game today, but I like Spencer Strider today. I do. I think the Phillies are going to go 1-3 in this series. And we'll take a look at the out-of-town scoreboard from last night. They're still a playoff team. Like, it's not sky is falling, but it's definitely planting the seed of worry and doubt, especially with this bullpen. Zach Wheeler, I brushed that one aside because he's been great lately. That was the main reason you lost.
Everybody has an off day.
Absolutely.
We all have one.
And he's a big game pitcher, and he'll show up in the playoffs. Now, Aaron Nola on Friday night, that's going to be one where the microscope is out, and I'm fully watching every pitch and his demeanor and how he looks. Christopher Sanchez, I feel pretty good about, honestly. But again, Spencer Strider, probably not so much.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, with that loss, it does close the gap between the Phillies and the Cubs. Fortunately, our Denver, out in Colorado, they did help us out a bit, to say the least.
Yeah,
with the
good job,
Chicago
Rockies.
loss. So thank you to the Rockies for that help. But yeah, shout out to our DNVR Rockies crew for that help and assist. Because look, we want to control the controllables, but every once in a while you need an assist, and they were able to step in and help. But as you talk about for the wild card race, playoff implications, yeah, definitely need to win these games. I'm hoping the Phillies can tie this up. I'm gonna say they're gonna tie it up tonight.
All right, I hope you're right.
I'm gonna go opposite. I hope I'm correct, too.
I would love to be wrong.
Yeah, this is one that I hope I'm correct about. But taking a look at just kind of where we are right now in the season in terms of standings and everything, we got to look at it.
Yeah, I mean, this is scoreboard watching season. Something, there's always the baseball, they say, is one of the most romantic sports just because it's old and dusty. But one of the things about baseball I absolutely love is listening to it on the radio. And when Scott Fransky calls a home run over the out-of-town scoreboard, it always puts a smile on my face. Something about the out-of-town scoreboard, because you don't really see it that much in the other sports. You know what I mean? When you're at a Sixers game, it's not flashing Knicks scores and Wizards scores and Bulls scores. Same with football. You might get the scroll real quick. But baseball is the one where it's permanently there. Something about the out-of-town scoreboard I love. And we just flashed the graphics from last night. Coach, if you can put that back up again for the good people. They're still firmly in the top wild card spot there. They got a 1.5 game lead on the Cubs, who went down to the Rockies last night. The Diamondbacks are just pesky and won't go away. And then you have the Reds, the Marlins, and the Giants. Gabe Kapler and the San Fran Giants, mediocre roster, and they just continue to hang. But the best thing about this is the Marlins are now tied for the 3rd spot. I'm assuming MLB put it in the tiebreaker order. So luckily the Diamondbacks and Reds are still ahead of them. So that's a good thing, because of those teams right now, the one I least want to see is the Miami Marlins.
Yeah.
1, because the game could be in Miami. And 2, they just kind of have the Phillies number a little bit. So bring on the Reds, bring on the Cubs, bring on the Diamondbacks, bring on the Giants. Just give me anybody but the Marlins there, and I'll be a pretty happy Phillies fan.
Yeah, and that's what we're hoping to do to the Braves, to have that same feeling where Atlanta fans don't want to see the Phillies. So hopefully they tie this up today. But I agree with you. When you're looking at who potentially the Phillies can face in the first round, yeah, I mean, I don't want to face the Marlins. No, thank you. But
and I don't want to face the Brewers. Hypothetical man is saying the Brewers are kind of scary. Yeah, they've really hit their stride here in the last month and a half. And, Burns and some of their pitchers have really come around, and they've been pretty nasty lately. So that wouldn't be a fun one, but I'm not scared of them, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because, look, the Phillies have playoff pedigree that they showed you last year. And Rob Thompson this morning, I was listening to him, and he said, we're built for the playoffs.
And they are.
And he's right. I mean, they are, because of that clubhouse and that camaraderie and their potential to smash. It's just, what is Aaron Nola? That's the biggest question going into this, because he's going to be facing the Spencer Striders of the world. He's going to be facing, the number 2s who are pretty good around baseball with these teams. So, what Nola are you getting? And Sir Anthony, how are you using them? Mm-hmm. Those, to me, are the 2 biggest questions as we gear up for Red October.
Some major question marks. I know we are already nearing the last 20 minutes or so that somebody was asking earlier, and if we're going to be going the full hour. Absolutely, we will be. We have plenty to get into today. But I do want to shift a little bit. First, I want to let people know about FOCO. FOCO does provide you with opportunities to get any sort of merchandise, apparel, toys, whatever it may be. They are the leading manufacturer of sports and entertainment merchandise, with a product line that covers a wide range of things that you can purchase. So be sure to check out FOCO. They've hooked PHLY up with a lot of our awesome pieces that you can shop for, and you can check them out as well. So it's code PHLY that will give you that 10% off. FOCO always has your back to get the best gear around by using the link that's in our description to get that 10% off. Now, we've been talking a lot about the Phillies. We've been talking a lot about just recapping the series so far, but I want to take a step back and talk about something that's important, because as we're watching games, we're talking about a doubleheader. We're talking about 2 hours, 3 hours. I don't know about you guys, but I like to grub while I watch a game. And I just want us to show this lovely Reddit comment, Coach, on the screen that I came across and I saw on Twitter that was blowing up, of just the conversation around
Charlie
what
Kelly
you're eating.
Special.
what you're eating at games. Now, the question is about spaghetti. Apparently, according to this Reddit post, at Citizens Bank Park, you are allowed to have spaghetti in a bag and bring it into the stadium. Somebody said they opted for some pasta salad. There was some left over in the fridge, and they let them in with no questions asked. 10 out of 10 would recommend. And it led to a whole thread of conversation around what people have brought into the ballpark. I saw people posting their pictures of their pasta salad. So not only have we seen them talking about it, they posted proof. The pictures don't lie. I saw a plastic Ziploc bag with pasta salad and the fork, plastic of course, safety first, at the ballpark, sitting up high watching the Phillies game. And I want to know, like, what's the most ridiculous thing that you've brought into a game that, or any concert or venue that you want to openly share? Because
are we talking legal or not legal?
It could be either one. I mean, we've all done our fair share of illegal activity, some more than others.
Just kidding, cops, if you're watching.
But the pasta salad or spaghetti in a bag is different.
Yeah.
Honestly, I think I would try it.
I'm all for it. I've always found spaghetti in a bag to be hilarious ever since Charlie Kelly and It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia when he's going to the spa and he's like, "What's your spaghetti policy?" And to me, it's just a funny thing. But yeah, seriously, in this economy with the prices at the stadiums, bring in whatever the hell you can. As long as it's in a clear wrapping or bag, you can bring it in. So the weirder, the better. Like, if you want to bring in some smoked ribs, go for it. If you want to bring in spaghetti in a bag, some soup in a thermos. I don't know if that's allowed in.
I don't know.
It's becoming soup season. Look, it gets a little chilly in Citizens Bank Park late in the year. So I support anything. The weirder, the better. I personally am a pretty dumb person, so I always end up buying something. And I'm not economically smart like that. I should bring in stuff. But I have brought in hoagies before. They're just kind of easy.
Yeah.
I've never branched out to anything too weird. But I'm not opposed to a little spaghetti in the bag.
Well, since we're having a conversation, and I love that people are sharing. Alex, you also bring in a hoagie, chips, and candy. Hypothetical man, you're talking about. You had a friend bring in crab dip once. I love that. But you know what? That's risky. In my opinion, I don't know what you're bringing it into the game with. I don't know if it's a Tupperware. I don't know if it's an unopened, maybe it's those like small ones, the ones that are sold that you can easily take to go. But I do think that with prices being so high, if I'm not credentialed to go to a game, because I am absolutely a penny pincher, I will without a doubt bring something in. Just because you don't want to have to worry about buying the expensive bottles of Dasani or the drink.
Oh, you
or
don't
even
like paying $6 for a bottle of water?
No, when I can pay $6 for a case of water. And and honestly, when you look at the fact that the drinks are expensive, the food is expensive. So, I love the challenge of being able to smuggle some things in. And then if you have young kids with you, that's always the easy one, because you can easily just say, "Hey, I'm just bringing in this small thing of whiskey for my baby."
Yeah.
Bam.
It's for her gums.
It's for their gums. Exactly. They need to eat this entire hoagie and ribs. That's for them. But I think it's things that don't smell as much.
Yes.
You have to have something that you can conceal.
Don't bring in scrambled eggs. That would be weird.
As
You're
a
gonna get some
female,
looks.
we don't have the best pockets and our purses get checked. But when it gets cold outside, you can easily layer things into your clothes, and as a female, they can't fully check you.
And now it's
the same
kind
way.
of the patless entry. You can even. How do you feel about that? The facial recognition software where you can just walk right in.
It's a little scary.
I mean, they already have pictures of us, I'm sure. So part of me is like, oh, that's weird, and then part of me is like, they already know my social, my medical records, how fast I drive to work. What the hell's the difference? But yeah, I live my life straddling the fence of penny pinching and trying to be smart like that, and YOLO, treat yourself. And once I get a beer or two in me at a game, it's YOLO, treat yourself. The premeditated snacks I'm not very good at. I wish I could be. But it's a fine line.
Absolutely notoriously have smuggled flasks into games and concerts, and I am not ashamed to say it. That's fine. I mean, that's a normal thing, right? And then you just maybe buy a drink to go with it. You have a whole mixed drink. Easy. Makes it a lot cheaper. Vape pen.
Chris Nevin says, can you still bring in your beer can in the hoagie roll? I've seen that done before. I believe as long as it's a clear plastic bag, you could probably get away with it. South Jersey Jack says the beer noculars.
Can we talk about John Dickerson's tweet comment, excuse me, should be a tweet too. Don't bring in anything, for those that are listening on the podcast, don't bring in anything that is a choking hazard. The bullpen already has that covered. Oh,
Zing, got their ass.
John Dickerson came choosing violence this Wednesday. I love that.
So I wanted to throw one more thing by you here as we're wrapping up on today's show. Jimmy Rollins, one of my favorite Phillies of all time, recently was kind of thinking out loud. Now, I don't think he has any inside information, even though it is great to see him around the team still and occasionally pop in the broadcast booth here and there. He was tweeting last weekend about the possibility of a certain MLB star from Millville, New Jersey by the name of Mike Trout. Now, the Angels this past week have basically said if Mike deems that he wants to go somewhere else, we'll be open to trade negotiations. I, for one, am out on Mike Trout. This might come off as my first hot take here.
Oh, you're not Team Trout.
I loved Mike Trout. He's been hurt 4 years in a row. His contract is 7 years, $240 million remaining. Your Bryce Harper deal, your Trey Turner deal look like kind of bargains next to that. As much as I would love an outfield of Castellanos, Harper, and Trout, I'm going to pass. I just don't want to bring that in and then have him break down for 7 more years. Now, if the Angels want to eat $150 million of that and really get some top prospects for the Phillies, I might be swayed a little bit. But Jimmy Rollins, put out the tweet with 2 different lineups. One, different orders of where Mike Trout would fall in the lineup. And look, for a while there, he was modern day Mickey Mantle. Yeah, looked like he had potential to be, the greatest baseball player we've seen in a long time. And now he's breaking down on the regular. I'm out. I'm out on Mike Trout. Renee, where do you fall? Jimmy Rollins making all the Phillies fans think about it with his tweets. Are you in or out on a potential Mike Trout deal?
This is a conversation I feel like we have every single year, all the time. It's Mike Trout or not. I will say, fun fact, Mike Trout grew up in the Vineland, Millville area, which is where my mom grew up. And Mike Trout is only exactly to the day, 13 months older than me, as we both just celebrated birthdays recently. So that's the only thing that we have in common. That's the only thing that I like about this situation. But I think Mike Trout, in general, when you look at and talk about the greats that have had strong careers. We talked about Bryce Harper needing that ring and how it'd be disappointing if Harper gets to the end of his career and doesn't have it. Mike Trout is in the same boat, and the Angels have underperformed. He's only been in that 2014 ALDS game against Kansas City, hasn't had a playoff at all appearances otherwise. But that's not our problem. And Mike Trout absolutely would have made sense, as you mentioned, years ago, but it's similar to James Harden with the Sixers, even like Aaron Rodgers we just saw with the Jets. I think there comes a point where it's too late to make the move on a player because of age, because of health, because of injuries, because of money. There's so many more factors to it.
Yeah.
And so I think it sounds good. Let's bring Mike Trout back. He's obviously from the area. Everybody loves Mike Trout, but not in the sense of like what the Phillies would have to lose in order to bring in Mike Trout. I don't think that trade-off is worth it when you look at who you'd have to possibly get rid of. I know I saw rumors and different people speculating. Is it Brandon Marsh? Is it Bryson Stott? Are we willing to have those conversations? Are we ready to have those conversations?
It would all depend on what the Angels are doing. Because if they're in a rebuild, they're going to want prospects, which would tell you they'll probably eat some more of that money than you might expect. If they're not in a true rebuild and just kind of want to unload, then they're probably not going to eat that money. So I'm just out. You got money coming off the books with Rhys Hoskins, Aaron Nola. We'll determine. There's plenty of time in the offseason and winter meetings for those discussions. We'll see. I'm more keen on. I'm getting Yamamoto'd up, the Japanese pitcher.
Yeah.
He's making Ohtani stats look pedestrian over there right now. He's a young guy. I think he's 25 years old. There's another guy that's 21, the 2 hot Japanese pitchers. The 21-year-old might not be coming over yet, but Yamamoto might be. So I hate having an off-season discussion now. Yeah. But this is Jimmy Rollins' fault. Don't blame me and Renee. Jimmy Rollins did this. We love you, Jimmy. But yeah, I'd be a little more keen on throwing a large lasso around a lot of bullpen arms and getting another starting pitcher, because I really believe we're probably seeing the end of Aaron Nola here as a Philly. So you're going to want to supplement that. I love Ranger Suarez. I'd prefer him to be a 3 rather than the team's number 2.
Yeah.
And then you also have to consider that Zack Wheeler's contract, which, by the way, is one of the greatest Phillies contracts they've ever signed, is nearing its end, too. So Andrew Painter is going to miss all next year.
Right.
You still don't know what Griff McGarry and Mick Abel are going to give you, so you can't really rely on them. I'm all about getting a proven commodity in the pitching rotation next year, especially if Aaron Nola is not going to be here.
And I agree. I know in the chat, Chris was mentioning a number of people have said they're out on Trout, and also
which is crazy, isn't it?
Yeah, just we have nowhere near the assets.
3 years ago
him.
it was Trout.
Exactly. And not only do we not have the assets, but also, as we talked about, health or the contract. There's a lot. Mike Trout's coming with some baggage, and we all know we don't love baggage, especially baggage that we can't handle like this. And as you mentioned, is it really worth it? And also, is this a priority? I don't think Mike Trout right now is a priority. I don't think that's going to solve the problems of the Phillies and make them suddenly an automatic favorite for the World Series and just make the journey to the World Series, back to the World Series, to now win it easier. It doesn't, it sounds good from a storyline perspective of like, oh, welcome back home. We know he's an Eagles fan. We know he was a part of the 2008 parade when the Phillies won.
By the way,
he's all things.
Stop giving Mike Trout footballs. The dude's got access to whatever the hell he wants in this life.
Football.
He's got great seats. Stop giving him footballs. He doesn't need more footballs. Throw it to a kid in the stands. Mike Trout's fine.
Do you mean that $426.5 million deal is not enough to buy his own football?
Yeah, come on. He's got enough. One's fine. Now he's got 5 or 6. It's just getting gluttonous.
I'm going to go out and extend that a little bit further. I love the fact you want to show love when you have people at the game. There's other ways to show love. Show them on the Jumbotron, on the screen. Get them access to some things. You don't have to gift them certain things.
Maybe Mike Trout's turning around and giving it to a kid. Let's hope. But come on, he's got enough footballs. Stop it, Eagles.
Enough. But I do think, and also just in general, that's been played out.
Yeah.
But overall, I agree. I think when we're looking across the board for the Phillies, the need is in the bullpen. The need is not Mike Trout. And so it doesn't make sense to make all of these moves when we don't know the future of Mike Trout health-wise. We don't know how the contract will work out. And we don't need Mike Trout right now in that sense, which is wild, as you mentioned, to even think about. When years ago, Mike Trout, we thought was the answer, especially pre-Bryce Harper, that would solve all of the Phillies' problems.
And everybody in the chat's going, what about Ohtani? What about Ohtani? I really don't believe... Look, John Middleton's a madman. I love him for the way he's gone about this, after the decade of, just awfulness. He's attacking this with money. He's paying the luxury tax. He's going for it in a big way. I really don't believe Ohtani is going to be an option for them. As much as I would love him, he's going to set... Well, now he's got the Tommy John potential surgery, so we'll see.
Yeah.
But, this man could be looking at a $600 or $700 million contract. He's, top 3. He was top 3 in Silver Slugger. He was top 3 in Cy Young. We've never seen anything like him.
Never.
I'm out on it. It's a little too rich for my blood. The rumors are, Dodgers, part of the Mariners are still owned by Nintendo, which is, a very famous Japanese company. Some people think there might be some ties there to that. So I don't think Ohtani's going to happen.
But
it would
I
be
want to
cool.
throw the question out there. What would you be willing to give up? And I'm not just talking about on the Phillies roster. What in your life, would you be willing to give up for Ohtani if that was a possibility? I'm asking you guys. I'm asking you. Would you give your firstborn? Would you give up?
No.
I don't know. Would you give up for your? What would you be willing to give up to make it happen that we get Ohtani in Philly?
I would consider giving up golf, but I don't know.
You never can hit the golf course again.
Yeah.
You can, not mini golf, not top golf, not any golf course. You're no longer golfing. The clubs are gone. We're selling them.
I need to sleep on that. I don't know if Ohtani's going to get me over that one. But speaking of Mike Trout, the one thing he's bringing to the area is an awesome Tiger Woods designed golf course coming to South Jersey.
Well, you wouldn't be able to be at that golf course.
I wouldn't be able to play it if we had Ohtani.
And you are no longer able to attend that golf course.
Before I consider answering that, I need to know Ohtani Connie's stance on socks versus no socks. So once I get that piece of information, I'll formulate my opinion for you. And Renee's got the UGG slippers here. Go see now. This is a little psycho to me because my feet are sweating just looking at you. You got the socks inside the Uggs. Those babies got to be like 115 degrees in there.
Just for reference, I absolutely do. My shoes like half on. It's like a cloudy day today. I'm painting the picture. It's a cloudy-ish day. We were up late during the post-game show. I actually have shoes in my bag that I literally was going to change into.
I'm going to go walk around barefoot in some puddles outside.
Like because of I want to be comfortable. Like I'm the type, I get home, the first thing I do is put on my comfy socks. And we were talking about this off air with one of our producers, Marissa. I put on my comfy socks. I put on my slippers. To me, that's like, I am home.
Cajun the beast.
I am home. I don't wear socks with flip-flops or anything like that. I just want to clarify that in the summertime, I'm not wearing socks with sandals or something. No Jesus sandals or anything. But I do love a nice comfy pair of socks. And today felt like a socks day.
Yeah. Well, hopefully we're a nice comfy listen for you here on our third show, our second daily live show. We did the post game last night. And come playoff time, a couple things to expect from us. You're going to see some great written content from Charlie O'Connor here as the season comes down to an end. You're going to see some social media stuff. We'd love for you to follow at PHLY_sports, at PHLY_Phillies. Those are going to be kind of our indicators to you when we're going live online on YouTube. About an hour after each show on YouTube daily, that's going to be transformed into a podcast. Renee and I will be tweeting out the podcast links. If you could leave us 5-star reviews so my sensitive ass can sleep properly at night, I would really appreciate that. So we just... we'd love for you to follow along. Head to allphly.com. We got some great tailgate packages. We had a ton of diehard memberships day one. Want to keep that going because it's awesome. You get access to the Discord in there. I was watching the Phillies game with Renee and Tyler last night, hopping in the Discord, chopping it up with the good people. So we got a lot of great stuff going on here at PHLY. This is the PHLY Phillies podcast. For Renee Washington, I'm Jamie Lynch. We will be back tomorrow morning, hopefully talking about a split series versus the Atlanta Braves and not a 1-3 series versus the best team in baseball. See you tomorrow.
We all silly like the mayor.